Yeah! Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And again, I'm laughing at myself because I put myself in a little bit of a panic mode when I hit that live button. It wouldn't let me go live, and I was determined to get in before midnight, and I got in right at midnight. Hello, everybody. If anybody is still up, right? If you're one of those people who have a hard time getting to sleep, I know my sister is one of those people, and it's really hard on the system when you don't get a lot of sleep. I've seen what it's done, uh, and I understand that a lot of it is in the habit, right? My sister had a tendency to, again, like her alone time. And sometimes, she would intentionally wake up in the middle of the night just to have that space of time for herself, all for herself. I do that quite often myself in the way of going for my evening walks when it's pitch black. It's like having the world all for yourself. And if you're highly sensitive, empathic, right? If you have these sensitivities to you that you feel the heaviness, right? When you're in the midst of it, right? If you're downtown or in parties or in busy hallways or halls, or right, that we can tend to get a little jittery in that. I have no idea how I got into that conversation. Oh, about getting me in that little bit of a hairy scary because I was trying to get in here before midnight, but I am here. And I'm prepared, exhausted. This week is our dollar days. It's like the busiest it's the busiest week of the year. Oh my goodness, did I get a bum whooping for sure. All my fingers are so sore from using the cash register like it's a typewriter in all my transactions. It's sweet, and at the same time it's frustrating because there's when I walk in the door, it's like, oh, Cindy's here. And everybody scatters to do other things, and then I get stuck at the till, and then I'm just stuck there because it's where I shine is up front. And it's a good way to run a business all over the place again. It's a good way to run a business. You know, People are so eager to get somebody trained, and when they see they're not going to catch on, they don't consider that maybe there's something else in that business that you have that person would be absolutely perfect for. And we get really eager and just too quick to let people go in that. And again, wow. Where am I tonight? And that one was coming from I'm pooped. So I'm going to chalk it up as pooped. But at the same time, right, being accountable to myself, that it's important for me to do my very best. And I feel the heavy, like I feel that drag your butt. I feel that procrastination and that pushback in almost everything in the past at least week. At least a week. And I push back. You guys know when something's at me, I will come right at it too. But even in doing that, it just seems like such an effort, right? But because I do things in baby steps, right? I hold myself accountable to the best of my ability because I do the things that I like doing, because I do those things that I know help to make the right. the story I'm playing out or the story the world's playing out a little bit easier to digest, in all truth, right? I'm not in a bad mood. I'm not in a great mood. I'm just in that Mogwire? Is that maybe it is that. Maybe it is in that slow motion and not the actual, what was I gonna say? The lack of motivation. It's not the lack of motivation, it's the lack of not having the directive in where that motivation should be directed in. That's a decision making kind of space for me, in all truth. And right, I don't mean to sit here and work things out, but I'm tired. And when I'm tired and get in my brain like that, that's usually what happens. And then I can kind of figure things out for myself just from that idea and just been coming back and right having a little giggle at myself in that. I even forget what I was talking about. That's the Mogwire. That's the stuff that I'm fighting in this moment, right? Just not having that direction where I should be putting my energy, where I should be shining in, right? Those directions, those goals, I just seem to be in the midst of it right now. And it's a lot of things kind of being introduced, right? The topics that I'm picking up, you guys, the people that I want to help are the light and the darknesses. And when I say the light and the darknesses, I'm saying the people that are out there and they're doing what I'm doing, right? They're just doing their best, even if it's just in living their own life, but being that example for others, right? To maybe give it a shot. And in giving it a shot, they become more familiar to us, right? And we get introduced, right? Because it's truly, you can know somebody 20 years and in a moment be introduced to somebody you've never met before. It only takes a split second sometimes for people to open up and unfold and reveal who they really are. And that's because sometimes it just is in that moment, in that second, that they've given in or they have recognized that they're able to trust in something or someone, right? And when they get to that point, it's who's there, right? Who can guide that? And I take lessons from a lot of different sources in my own personal life and conversations, adventures, experiments in my relationships. You know, I take lessons online, I books. When you see my staff charge tomorrow night, if you guys want to come and hang out on Chatters Live, every second week we do my staff charges, and there's always books, motivation and inspiration and self help, right? Because it's up to us, right? When we are growing up, we are learning and absorbing, and we're adjusting and adapting, and we're coping. And sometimes we grow up, sometimes like a tree with crooked branches, right? With crooked branches. But it's not that that tree isn't healthy. In fact, that tree can be even more stronger than a tree that stands straight and tall, right? And that's because that tree who's all crooked has adapted in the extremes, in the weather, the lack of water, the heat, the wind, the snow, the ice, the right, the seasons, and it's had to. Here in Manitoba, it's very common that trees grow this way. But these are the resilient trees. These are this is the strength. These are the trees that you'll see standing alone in a farm field because it's possibly given the respect of a farmer who's just seeing it surviving, right? Adapting, conquering, coping, adjusting, right? And still growing. So I look at myself when I get into these states, and it's not very often. That's why I notice it, right? That I almost feel it physically, right? But I'm getting things done, and it's because of the accountability. So I may get it done late. I may do a messy job at it. I may have a little bit of personality in whatever it is that I'm working on. And when I say personality, that just, again, that's that mogwire that just, I don't, right? It's like me going to PE class, physical education class. And it's just like, oh, no, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be, right? And that's the feeling that I have right now. But I'm moving, right? And I think if I'm feeling this, right, these are feelings that are not the norm. So I suspect that there are others that are probably feeling it a lot more than I'm feeling it. And yeah, it's kind of it's kind of interesting. It ties into a subject here, that I was watching, soft white underbelly. I don't know if anybody has ever partaked in those videos. They're pretty heavy. I am not obsessive in it, but I have watched quite a few because it's in my intent that I understand emotions, and specifically, I want to understand the emotions of people who have gone through serious traumatic experiences and had dynamic lives that have changed them and made them into the human beings that they may or may not appreciate in themselves, right? And tonight I'm listening to a gentleman, and he had the most terrible life, right? And at the same time, there was a lot of mix of something in that life. And it gave me an answer as to why, why, why me? Why did possibly I was able, right? There are so many people who go through so many crazy experiences in their lives that just, right? Like, my experiences were nothing in comparison to some of these sad, really sad, because it didn't have to be, right? And I have some friends, who are like these, and these are the light in the darknesses because they grow up in these situations that kind of scarred them, that kind of make it so that they get triggered in certain circumstances and, right, certain conversations, and it really messes them up, and it makes it so, like, there is a mogwire that you just like, oh my goodness, pee, like, you just don't want to work through it, right? And not everybody is holding themselves accountable, right? I would have to say very large percentage, 95% people would much rather be on the couch with the remote control, right? I would I would right? I feel it. Just because I'm not laying on the couch with the remote control doesn't mean that I would not absolutely enjoy a couple of days of doing nothing, right? Like nothing, just in my, not showering, nothing, no house, nothing, right? My live shows have to be, because if I'm on nothing, then I am on nothing, and nothing looks like this for 2 days, right? that would be that would be fantastic, but at the same time I wouldn't get anything accomplished, and I would be setting myself back because I allowed that push back, that push on me, to push me back. So all that work that I did wouldn't amount to anything. So even when I don't feel it, even though I feel the heaviness, even though I got other things to do, even though it's time for bed, even though I work so hard today, right? I hold myself accountable. Why? Because it makes me feel right, right? It makes me feel, I was going to say, like the good girl, right? Lots of times I go through life feeling like I'm the bad girl, that I'm about to get in trouble for something, right? And sometimes when I watch these videos, these soft white underbellies, because they're so raw, right? And I couldn't absorb them any other way. I need it real. I don't want to see the or hear the, right? I want to see it for myself. I want to experience it for myself. I need to feel the truth, right? Because my target audience is that truth, right? It is. And then they go out and save the day, and they give their last bit, right? They're going through Mogwai. They're trying, but they're not getting very far, right? But they have to. They're determined, and they spark a little bit, but it's their very last spark, and they give it away, right? And those are the people I want to help, right? People that are not taking themselves into consideration, that are appreciating how much they truly matter. And as much as I'm talking to you possibly out there, I'm talking to myself too, right? I'm talking to my I'm talking to myself too. I recognize that. I don't have to understand why somebody else, right, who suffers more than me, isn't able to make that kind of movement that I've been, right, privileged to be given a chance to take a shot at, right? I'm not going to question it. If it was meant to be known by me, it would be known by me, right? So I'm not going to beat myself up for being a little bit naive. I come in here, right? And I'll have to come in and watch my live again to get a certain percentage of understanding of what my live I brought to the table was all about. But maybe there's somebody out there who actually does get it, right? That does understand some of those parts that I don't understand. And if you have that information, then, right, run with it. Make it work. Like, seriously, make it work. I recognize that possibly I'm not where I'm supposed to be. 10 years later, 10 years anniversary, you guys. I've been on YouTube for 10 years, but the first video was on New Year's Eve coming up. So that will be my official celebration, 10 years celebration here on YouTube. Isn't that incredible? Went into my analytics. over 600 videos. I'd say that was pretty good. And it has been a process for me 100%, but because, right? All I can do then is just come in and share, even if right? I'm not getting it all myself. I try. I'm coming in and I'm watching my live again for my own benefit, right? Sometimes I get, sometimes I don't get in the moment, but eventually I suspect that I'll get it, right? Yeah. And I hope, right? That's an easy transition for me. That I walked in baby steps and able just to casually just walk into it and not be fried by it. I don't know why I use that word, fried by that. Maybe somebody else knows. Any case, you guys, I'm super tired. I apologize for being all over the place tonight. It was my intent to show up, but I knew I was showing up just tired and without a topic of content there, right? But I'd like to end the day saying, right? Sometimes it's in that accomplishing. Sometimes it's in moving yourself a little bit further than what you think you're capable of, right? I was pretty bagged. I was ready for bed. I was ready to flake out or sit in this chair for another hour and stare off into space, right? And I may do that still, right? But I've got to be back at work tomorrow morning. But I wanted to show up. I wanted to say hi. And, right, maybe I'll just come in now and watch my live again before I go to bed, just to get that down packed, just so that I can say that I keep that word to myself, right? Rather than going to bed now with good intent of getting up in the morning and watching the live and then just starting my day. That's what I'll do. I'll make myself a cup of coffee. It's still early, you guys. Have a great night. And we'll see you Monday. Tomorrow I'll be on Instagram. Sunday night I'll be back on YouTube. It's with my other live show, Chatters Live. If you want to come hang out with us, it's an amazing live show that we've been doing since the very beginning of me hanging out here on YouTube. We keep it light over there. And in all honesty, right, my crew chats more than I do. Everybody, have a great night, and we'll see you Monday.